In the early hours of November 13th, 2022, on a quiet street in a college town nestled in the Idaho hills, a house stood still. No screams, no broken glass, no calls to 911. Yet inside, 4 young lives were taken in the dead of night. This was not a robbery. It wasn't random. The killer used a knife. He didn't touch their valuables. He entered while they were sleeping and vanished without a trace. The victims were students, friends, children. Their families are still asking, why them? This is the true story of the Idaho college murders, a case that chilled the entire world. You're watching Whispers of the Unknown. Subscribe for more stories where silence speaks louder than words. 1122 King Road, a 3-story off-campus house in the college town of Moscow, Idaho, just a few blocks from the University of Idaho. It was known as a social hub, a party house, a place where college memories were made. 6 women shared the lease, but on the night of November 12th, only 5 were home. And one guest, Xana, Kernodle's boyfriend, made it 6. This wasn't a place of fear. Doors were often left unlocked. Friends came and went. Nobody expected what was about to happen. The victims were Kaylee Goncalves, Madison Maddie Mogen, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin. They were loved, driven, real. Kaylee Goncalves was 21, a senior majoring in general studies, bright, social, and outspoken. She was preparing to move to Texas and start a job in tech. Kaylee had just returned to Moscow that weekend to show off her new Range Rover and to see Maddie one last time. Madison Maddie Mogen was 21, a marketing major with dreams of fashion and design, known for her wit and confidence. She and Kaylee were inseparable, roommates, co-workers, best friends until the end. Xana Kernodle was 20, a marketing major, the kind of person who made everyone feel seen. She shared the second-floor bedroom with her boyfriend, Ethan. Xana was sharp and fiercely loyal to those she loved. Ethan Chapin was 20, a triplet raised in Mount Vernon, Washington, laid back, kind-hearted, and a big fan of the outdoors. He and Xana had been dating for months. That night, he was staying with her, never knowing it would be his last. Saturday, November 12th, 2022. It was game day at the University of Idaho. Ethan and Xana attended a Sigma Chi fraternity party just down the road. Kaylee and Maddie went downtown to the Corner Club, a popular student bar. Later that night, a live stream from a food truck captured them waiting for mac and cheese. They were laughing, talking to strangers. Everything looked normal. At 1:56 a.m., a rideshare dropped them home. Ethan and Xana returned around the same time. The 6 people in the house that night were Kaylee, Maddie, Xana, Ethan, and 2 surviving roommates. The police believe the killer entered the house between 4 a.m. and 4:25 a.m. He carried a large, fixed-blade knife, possibly a K-bar military-style combat weapon. There was no sign of forced entry. The front door may have been unlocked, or he could have entered through the sliding glass door on the second floor. Inside, he crept from room to room. According to the affidavit, he attacked Ethan and Xana first on the second floor. Ethan suffered stab wounds to the chest. Xana, authorities believe, put up a fight. She had defensive wounds on her hands. She may have even seen him. On the third floor, Kaylee and Maddie were sleeping in the same bed. They too were stabbed multiple times. Kaylee's injuries were said to be significantly more brutal. One of the surviving roommates, DM, according to the affidavit, awoke during the attack. She heard crying, a voice saying, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." And later, footsteps. She opened her door and saw a tall man in black clothing and a mask, walking past her and out the sliding door. She locked herself in her room and did not call 911. It wasn't until noon the next day, Sunday, November 13th, that a 911 call was placed. Friends had come to the house trying to wake their roommates. Instead, they found the bodies. That call came from a surviving roommate's phone. The dispatcher reported the scene as an unconscious person. Police arrived at 1122 King Road at 11:58 a.m. Inside, they discovered what would later be called one of the most gruesome crime scenes in Idaho history. Blood seeped through walls. Multiple floors were affected, but no weapon was found. No signs of sexual assault, no motive, no suspect. Within hours, news spread like wildfire. 4 college students murdered in their home. Panic swept through the University of Idaho. Students fled campus. Parents demanded answers. Moscow police, unused to high-profile crime, struggled to manage the pressure. Online, rumors exploded. Was it a targeted attack? Did Kaylee have a stalker? Why didn't the roommates call sooner? TikTok sleuths and Reddit detectives began analyzing food truck footage, phone pings, and interviews. The case became national, then international. The families went on Dateline, CNN, Fox News, begging for answers. Still, for weeks, nothing. No suspect, no weapon, just pain. In late December, nearly 7 weeks after the murders, police got their break. A tan leather knife sheath had been found on Kaylee and Maddie's bed. Inside it, DNA. The DNA didn't match anyone in the system, but they used genetic genealogy, tracing family trees to find a match. It led them to a man in Pennsylvania, thousands of miles away. On December 30th, 2022, police arrested 28-year-old Bryan Kohberger. He studied crime. He wrote papers about serial killers. He sat in classes talking about the very kind of case he would later be charged with. Bryan Christopher Kohberger was born in 1994. He grew up in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania, a quiet area near the Poconos. People described him as shy, a little awkward, and someone who struggled with weight and bullying in school. Over time, he became more withdrawn. But Bryan was smart. He was into psychology and the criminal mind. He earned a bachelor's degree in psychology and then a master's in criminal justice. By August 2022, Bryan had moved across the country to Pullman, Washington, just 10 miles from Moscow, Idaho. He started his PhD in criminology at Washington State University. There, he worked as a teaching assistant, grading papers. He was studying criminal behavior, especially the minds of violent offenders. During his studies, Bryan posted a survey on Reddit. He said he was looking for participants to understand how emotions and psychological traits influence decision-making when committing a crime. Some of the questions were strange. He asked, "Why did you choose that victim? How did you feel after committing the crime? What did you think before making your move?" After his arrest, that survey raised big questions. Was he just a student? Or was he planning something darker? After the murders, investigators had one big clue. A tan leather knife sheath found on the bed next to Kaylee and Maddie. It had DNA on the button snap. The DNA belonged to someone in Bryan Kohberger's family. They also found something else, a white Hyundai Elantra seen on security cameras near the crime scene between 3:30 and 4:20 a.m. The same kind of car Kohberger drove. Cell phone records showed his phone was turned off during the murders. But on other nights, it had pinged near the victim's house. In fact, it had pinged near 1122 King Road at least 12 times before the night of the murders. After the killings, Bryan finished the semester. Then, he and his father drove across the country to Pennsylvania in that same white Elantra. Along the way, they were stopped twice in Indiana, not for serious violations, but because law enforcement wanted a visual. Once Bryan was back home, police began surveillance. They collected trash from the family home and tested DNA. It matched the DNA from the sheath. That was enough. On December 30th, 2022, Bryan Kohberger was arrested. He was charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of felony burglary. He was flown back to Idaho. In court, he said very little. He did not enter a plea. He was held without bail. Later, police searched his apartment and car. They found nitrile gloves, a black mask, multiple knives, a laptop, and a stained mattress cover. But not the knife. The families were relieved, but also heartbroken. Kaylee's father, Steve Goncalves, said, "This is just the beginning. We want to know why." Still, Kohberger has said nothing. He is presumed innocent until proven guilty in court. The man was arrested. The families finally had a name. And yet, almost 2 years later, there's still no trial, no conviction, no closure. Kohberger's lawyers have filed dozens of motions to dismiss charges, to remove the death penalty, to move the trial elsewhere, to seal key evidence. The trial was originally set for October 2023, but that date came and went. As of now, no new date has been confirmed. Prosecutors are seeking the death penalty. Kohberger's lawyers argue he has no criminal record and that the case is not as strong as it seems. Prosecutors say otherwise. They believe the crime was exceptionally brutal. Meanwhile, the house at 1122 King Road sat empty for over a year. Eventually, it was demolished in December 2023. Some families supported it. Others believed it should have been preserved for trial. Kohberger has remained silent. Experts say he may show traits of obsessive thinking or antisocial personality disorder. He was intense, awkward, and obsessed with violent crime. Still, no motive. Why that house? Why those victims? Why that night? Until a trial begins, those questions remain. If convicted, Kohberger could face life in prison or death. He has pleaded not guilty. 4 young people went to sleep in a house they trusted. They never woke up. Their dreams stolen, their families shattered. A community forever changed. Kaylee, Maddie, Xana, Ethan, they are not forgotten. Justice takes time, and sometimes it takes everything from those left behind. But the truth, no matter how long it hides, will come to light. Until then, we remember. You've been watching Whispers of the Unknown. Subscribe for more stories where silence speaks louder than words.